right now.
You're going like there and back.
I have to go Friday and then come in Tuesday night. I've got a house full of companies that flew in. And I gave my Friday up for them.
Yeah.
So I gotta get back before they all fly home. Do we know if this sound working? Is this sound working?
I'd like to call the work session to order for March 9th, 2026. City Clerk, please read a roll call.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
Okay, thank you very much. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight. Would like to remind council that staff will be pausing intermittently so often to answer any questions. So with that, first one up, item to receive Greater Phoenix Economic Council annual update. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Wendy Bridges, the Economic Development Director. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce Chris Mackey, the CEO and President of GPEC. And I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the council, I'm very excited to be here with you this evening and talk about all the great work that's going on in economic development, and particularly here in Goodyear. But for your viewers this evening, I thought I would give just a quick overview of the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. I know you all know it well, but our viewers that are watching us this evening, GPEC is made up of 22 cities and 2 counties, both Pinal and Maricopa County. And then we really exist to serve the communities on an economic development front. So to bring good quality jobs into the community, help our cities grow, and to work on policy that supports the economic development strategy that's identified by the mayors and councils. GPEC was formed in 1989 over an article in Forbes magazine called Boomtown Gone Bust. And it was during of course, it was coming into the end of the RTA, the Resolution Trust Corporation days. And I got to start working with GPEC in 1995 with one of the original founders, and have been an economic developer working with GPEC since 1998. And since our founding 35 years ago, we've helped nearly 1,100 companies come into the market with nearly 200,000 jobs and about $77 billion in capital investment. It's a true public-private partnership. When you look at regional economic development organizations, some have gone one way or the other. They're all either private sector or they're all either public sector. But in the true Arizona spirit, we always find, as you well know, that it's better when we collaborate together and we work with private sector and public sector to create the best that we possibly can. And we, with our 22 cities, also have 200 just over 200 private sector members. And I'll apologize for the small writing. This is one thing I haven't gotten fixed yet since I got to GPEC, so my old eyes. This is the services that the Greater Phoenix Economic Council does provide to our cities and towns and our counties. So we will do for prospects that are coming in and considering Goodyear or another city here in the region. Vice Mayor assures me it's only Goodyear that we're considering within the region for all of our great new jobs that are coming. We can do an operating cost comparison, so we can show if they're looking at Washington and Oregon and Arizona and New Mexico, we can actually show the true cost of doing business. An economic impact analysis. So as the mayors and councils are making decisions on kind of those land uses moving forward in those companies, it can show you over time, this is what this 300 jobs will bring, or this is what this particular company will. So it lets you make really good financial decisions and land use decisions for your city. Of course, labor market analysis. Everybody's looking for a workforce today. Site selection assistance, we help companies look. We work very closely with Director Bridges and her team as Goodyear is putting forward its site. And then once we've all landed those great companies, the public relations side, so the ribbon cutting and all of the press releases. What we're all here to talk about tonight is that business development activity. So fiscal year 2026 to date, and this is through the end of January. So we still have February's numbers to go, and I'll talk about those, but they're being validated still. But so far in 2020, fiscal year 26, which began on July 1st, we've located 20 new companies into the region with 1.3 billion in capital investment, just over 2,800 jobs, and their average high wage salary just over 83,000. You know, it's interesting to think about. If you go back to 2014, our average salary was below 40,000. So all the work that we've all done together to really elevate Arizona into the city and the region and the states that we want has come to fruition. So our stats, we are a group that's measured by its metrics. We're at 107% of goal on our prospects. 25% of the development is from international activity. Councilmember Kano was with us at a Japanese delegation last week. We had 40 Japanese companies that are here looking for potential locations here in the region. And then right now we are at 105% of last year. So we're seeing a good year. And we are, just as an FYI, they've not been validated, but our numbers now are closer for adding in February. We had 3 really great locates in February, closer to 5,000 coming into that now. If we look at our year-to-date prospect activity, and a prospect is qualified, meaning it's a company we're working with, we're providing them information. It's not just someone's to kind of drive by and say, hi, how are you? We're actually trading information. Actually, they've lowered the locations that they're considering. And those prospects, if you see them, we have about 184 active prospects as of the end of January, 32 million square feet potential that are in there, 27,000 job potential, and 67 billion in capital investment. And 145 of those prospects are new to fiscal year 26. So they're not carried over for years and years and years, which would drive your numbers up. The lion's share of them are new to us over the last 6 months. And not a surprise, about 77, so about 2/3 of our prospect activity is in manufacturing, whether it's in basic manufacturing, whether it is in advanced manufacturing. Of course, looking at the federal administration's desires and goals to be able to move manufacturing back and re-onshore back into the United States. We're seeing lots of that activity, and Arizona really is the darling of manufacturing. We have done an incredible job in going back to 1942, really setting the stage as to how and why a good quality manufacturing job is here. As you see, we're seeing activity in back office. Contrary to popular belief, office is not dead. It is, in fact, it's rearing its head back up again in a quite a strong fashion. We're seeing in warehouse distribution, not as much as we used to see, but health services and bioscience and technology and others. If we look at our prospect activity, you'll see on the industrial prospect, and again, no surprise, 113 of our prospects are on the industrial side, which is what we're seeing here today. And you can see 35 of them are 200,000 and above. 3 years ago, we had 8 100,000 or a million square foot warehouses. And as of last month, the last one has now been taken, which is causing the development community now to have a demand for building of million square foot buildings. And if you look at them, they didn't just go to distribution and logistics. A number of them went to advanced manufacturing and support companies for TSMC, for LG, and for others in the market. You can see we have 32 office prospects that we're working with. What's really flipped from office of old is their smaller uses. They're really right-sizing. They're looking at going into really new and modern space. I love your office building that's outside of this beautiful city hall in close proximity to restaurants. I understand you're getting a hotel built. So that's the type of office space they're looking for, where they can be outside, where they can walk to the amenities. That's exactly what they're looking for. If we look at where our prospects are coming from, as I said, 25% is international. No surprise here, 26 of them are still coming from California. We're still seeing strong business activity, but you can see across the United States where we're seeing activity. One of the surprises to us has been, since the pandemic, is the number of companies that are coming out of New York now that are really considering Arizona. Our most recent announcements, as you see, Schneider Electric, of course, landed in our wonderful Goodyear. First phase, 350 jobs with a total of approximately 750 jobs all total. So great new jobs for the region and for the citizens that live in the support area. If we look at GPEC and the city of Goodyear and our longstanding partnership, You'll see on the revenue on return, you are $223 for every dollar invested. So for those of your viewers that are watching today, the City Council does approve a contract on an annual basis for the Greater Phoenix Economic Council for the work that we do. It is 48 cents per capita, so our numbers have not gone up since we went up after the Great Recession, but leveled back out again just to help our companies, our cities. And if you look at 220, it means for every dollar Goodyear invests, we're returning $223 to the community in economic impact. If we look at our rate of return, as you saw, we've had, if we look at new jobs to Goodyear, just over 4,000, 54 million in new revenue into Goodyear, 404 million in consumer spending, meaning for those jobs that are coming in and people are following and they're spending money. So Goodyear is the decisions that the mayor and council have made to be able to represent a strong business community are clearly evident on the screen and the rate of return that you've caused to happen to the city of Goodyear. If we look at the community benefits report, again, it's a bit small, but if we look at fiscal year, if we look at the 5-year total, 24,000 jobs have come in, high-wage jobs have come into Goodyear. If we look at just jobs, 43,000 jobs for Goodyear. And the citizens can read on the screen, but 1,319 qualified prospects have considered Goodyear. Assisted locates are 240. So you can see the activity that's been happening in the market. And you'll see Amazon and American Eagle Outfitters and others. If we look at our partnership with GPEC, we look at our competitive intelligence and the work that we do, 240 locates in Greater Phoenix that we've assisted in the last 5 years, 15 of which have landed in Goodyear, 4,000 jobs and $520 million, as we talked about, in capital investment. So I wanted to go through that quickly so that we had time for any questions that the mayor and council might have for me. And again, thank you for the privilege of being here and presenting before you this evening.
Any questions? Start over here on the left. Any questions? Right? Wally?
I don't have any questions, but I'm one of your ambassadors as well, and I've been doing this for 15 years, and I absolutely love the relationship we have with GPEC because you have brought quality businesses and jobs to us that we would not necessarily be exposed to. And I know you look after our interests, even though you're looking after 22 other cities and towns. So you just try to find the best fit. But we really thank you, Christine, and we want to wish you the best at your new position. I love seeing you moving around. I followed you from the very beginning when I first went with Georgia to do some things, and we ran into you, and we knew then that you were going to make a difference. And so thank you so much, and we just appreciate all you do, and please continue to put our best foot forward or tell us how we need to do it.
Councilmember, thank you so much. And we've actually moved you to gold ambassador status.
Oh, yay.
So you've done such a great job for GPEC and
Thank
for the
you.
region.
Wow, thank you. How's that, Mayor?
I got that.
Like a watch.
Oh, yeah. I may get something, you don't know.
Laura?
Well, I also wanted to congratulate you on your new role. I know you did great work in Phoenix, and for you to be able to take this to a next level, really serving the region is just really a great addition and certainly a benefit for all of us. Like Wally, I'm also in the ambassador program. Very proud of that. I am one who that just like I barely get my minimums in. It's just, but you have great topics. I would encourage other council members who'd like to learn about various topics, the things that you offer quite a bit. And like you mentioned, I did go to the Japanese business delegation. It was very interesting to learn how much money is available from foreign investors. And I know that we have gone several times accompanied with somebody from ECDEV and you know, made relationships and connections. And I said, once our Buc-ee's gets done, I'd like to put some on a bus and have them come out here because I think that would definitely set us aside, you know, set us apart from how they might view the West Valley, and that would be a lot of fun. But, and I've learned that we have a number of European companies out here as well. So that foreign investment money is definitely a really critical thing, and we definitely have the land and all of that. One thing I wanted to ask you, especially since your role with TSMC, is I went to a seminar and Greg Vogel made the comment that we are the Silicon Desert. and what your thoughts were on how we're emerging as a tech identity, and how does power and water factor into all of that?
Councilmember Kano, first, I'm going to be driving the bus to Buc-ee's because I can hardly wait for it to open. I'm an Arizona girl, but I understand it's a place that I have to go to. So very, very excited to be driving that bus on that day. If you go back to 1942 and kind of come forward, Arizona was really a place that was built on a high-tech mecca. If you look at Galvin Electronics came here in the 1940s and became Motorola in 1952. Intel was a little startup company. 1971, it was only 3 years old when a group went after Intel to bring them here. Honeywell has been here. GE Computing came in 1956 and built the first mass-produced computer, in the entire country, just north of Sky Harbor. So it's been a region that was built on its tech hub. And I would argue in the 90s and early 2000s, we kind of lost our way. We were bringing in jobs that didn't focus on that high-tech mission. But as you know, coming out of the Great Recession, we swore we were never going back again. And I would also tell you that I firmly believe the tools that were put in place during the Great Recession for us here in Arizona are what have put us in this position today. We can now compete on a global level where we couldn't before, and now we can. So when you think about, I know they call us the Silicon Desert, and I would tell you we are actually, the Greater Phoenix is now ranked as #1 in semiconductor and its supply chain in the entire U.S. That number was released new about 2 weeks ago. So there is no region that is over us in semiconductor and its supply chain. So I think we should all wear that as a badge of honor, but it can't just be in one sector. We are working diligently, as we always have, in aerospace and defense. It is something we're known for with Luke, and an old school girl, so I still call it Willie, so I apologize. Mesa Gateway Airport. I still call it Willie from the work that we did. But if you read the Arizona Republic last week, 2 of the companies that were providing technology into the warfight were both here in the West Valley and the North Valley. And they are drone manufacturers and missile manufacturing companies that are getting these government contracts and things. So as we continue moving forward in national security innovation, I think with mayor and council's expertise and leadership across our 22 cities, we are going to even grow further and even more known as being that high-tech mecca. I can tell you, Director Bridges and I are not turning back. We know where we want to go, and we are, with the guidance of mayor and council, we're sticking with it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Did you have something?
Yeah, like I said before, thank you and welcome to GPEC. We're glad that you're here. So we're looking forward to more projects in the entire valley. So thank you for all of that. And let us know, like I said, I know you work closely with our economic development department. So if anything we can do to help attract or from the council perspective, yeah, definitely let us know. We definitely want all the options if they're coming to Arizona. So thank you. So that's all I have.
I appreciate the presentation. You did a great job. The question I have is there anything that you would recommend or the group would recommend that we need to talk to our state legislators about that make us more, what's the term I'm thinking, more aggressive or whatever out there in the marketplace? Tools that can be added to your tool shed.
Mayor, that's an excellent question. So the first, of course, is the continuation of Title 42. And Title 42 is an infrastructure reimbursement program that cities and towns can take advantage of to build the public infrastructure that needs to come to attract some of these large-scale manufacturing companies. So they have to make $500 million or more in investment, and then the state's sales tax, construction sales tax, can be reimbursed to the cities. All of the taxing jurisdictions benefit from the great work that the cities do. It shouldn't always be a burden to the cities that you have to pay for all of this infrastructure. It's a program that exists today. It is moving through the legislature as we speak to move from a $200 million program cap to a $75 million annual cap. And what that does is it allows cities to put in arterial streets and roads and water and sewer and water reclamation, truly public infrastructure, and then get reimbursed by the state's portion of the project sales tax. So advocating for that at the state level, of course. People always ask me, what is an economic developer that keeps you up at night? Mayor, I always tell them it's infrastructure. I know everybody thinks it should be workforce. It's infrastructure. It's the power grid, it's our wastewater treatment plants. If you'd ever told me in history that constraints would be in power and wastewater, I would have laughed you out of the room for decades of my career. But those are those things, I think, as we look forward. The other would be, and we're talking about this, there's nothing before the legislature today, but one of the basic tools that we have to help our citizens move into a good quality, high-paying job is job training. And that, we're the only state in the union that doesn't have a job training program that is at the state level. We have our Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act grant funds, and we have other things, but would love to work with the elected officials within the state to bring back a true job training program to help our citizens move into those knowledge economy jobs. And you're not talking about a 2 or 4 year degree. I'm talking about a 12 or 16-week training program that gets somebody a $60 or $65, $70,000 a year job in battery manufacturing or autonomous vehicles or in drone manufacturing or semiconductor. So that would be, if I was thinking of two, infrastructure and job training.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation, and we're going to have to work with our legislators to get that other one you had mentioned, 42. Do you know where it is right now in the legislature?
It is moving forward. It's moving forward between two committees. What we'll do is we'll send to Director Bridges and your interim
Okay,
city
please do.
manager and let them know where that's at.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mayor, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Christine.
Next item is to receive an update on Goodyear Senior Services. If you would too, please introduce yourself for the public.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Guyleen Oslansky. I'm the Parks and Recreation Deputy Director, and I'm joining Jeremy Dyke this evening, our Neighborhood Services Manager. He's here to provide you an update on Goodyear Senior Services. These services have been provided through a long-standing intergovernmental agreement with the City of Avondale. And while he'll be talking about Goodyear Senior Services, I did want to mention, in the City of Goodyear, we have some great senior programs that our Recreation Division provides. But these are very specialized with a recreational value for our participants, where our senior services, they go much deeper. These are resources, programs, and community connectedness that really increase the quality of life for some of our seniors that need these services. And with that, Jeremy's going to share a bit more about that with you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Guyleen said, my name is Jeremy Dyke. I'm the Neighborhood Services Manager of the City of Goodyear. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come here tonight. I'm here to provide an update on senior services in Goodyear. This conversation was initiated by a significant cost increase in our longstanding agreement with the City of Avondale. While that increase requires our attention, it's also created a natural pause point that allows staff and council to step back and evaluate how senior services are delivered today and how they may be delivered in the future as Goodyear continues to grow. Now, to understand where we are today, it's going to be helpful to briefly revisit how senior services have historically been delivered to Goodyear residents. Prior to 2014, the City of Avondale was applying annually for the Goodyear Community Funding to provide senior services to Goodyear residents. And as those requests came forward, Council determined that a more stable and predictable approach would be to formalize a relationship with an IGA. So in 2014, Goodyear entered into an IGA with the City of Avondale at an annual cost of $42,000. Now, this agreement allowed Goodyear residents to access senior programming, home-delivered meals, congregate meals, and transportation services at Avondale's Family Resource Center, without Goodyear needing to operate its own senior services program. Now, for more than a decade, that agreement has remained unchanged. During the same period, Goodyear has experienced substantial growth, not only in population, but in our approach to human and social services and expectations from our residents. So under the existing IGA, Avondale continues to provide senior services to Goodyear residents at the Avondale Family Resource Center. And this partnership has been valuable, and we want to be really clear. Avondale has been a strong and reliable partner, and we are grateful for their collaboration over many years. Now, recently, Avondale conducted a comprehensive review of its cost structure and implemented a per-participant pricing model. And based on reported utilization by Goodyear residents, this resulted in a proposed increase to approximately $189,000 annually beginning in fiscal year 27. So that change represents a significant increase from the current $42,000 agreement and is a primary reason this item is before council. While the increase is substantial, it is important to note that Avondale is applying a consistent methodology across participating jurisdictions. So rather than viewing this solely as a financial adjustment, staff see this as an opportunity, as an appropriate moment to reassess our long-term approach to senior services while maintaining service continuity in the short term. So senior services encompasses a range of essential supports that promote health, independence, and connection. And the included senior-focused programming, it would include congregate meals served in a social setting, home-delivered meals for those with mobility limitations, and transportation that ensures access to services. Now, these services play a critical role in quality of life for older adults and become increasingly important as a community grows and ages. Avondale has successfully provided these services to Goodyear residents for many years, and at the same time, Goodyear's continued growth and the scale of the proposed cost increase prompt us to thoughtfully examine how these services may be best delivered in the future. As Goodyear evolves, staff are exploring how senior services might be delivered in a way that is sustainable, that's locally accessible, and aligned with the city's broader human and social services framework. Now, this could be a public-private partnership, a traditional partnership, or bringing the services back in-house to Goodyear. And this work is still an exploratory stage, and effort will be incorporated into the city's strategic planning process to ensure alignment with council priorities. What is important to emphasize is that there will be no interruption in services. Staff recommend continuing our partnership with Avondale while this evaluation is underway, ensuring that Goodyear residents retain uninterrupted access to senior services. And as we move forward, there are two key actions that will be coming before this council. First, during the annual budget process, council will be asked to consider a supplemental reflecting the increased cost of services for FY27. And second, because the current IGA with Avondale expires in June, council will be asked to approve an amendment and extension to the agreement to formalize continued service delivery during that transition period. So these actions, they're procedural in nature, but they are essential to maintaining stability while staff continue to evaluate long-term options for council consideration. So in closing, this conversation, it's really about stewardship. It's about continuity, and it's planning responsibly for Goodyear's future. Just looking at the numbers between 2018 and 2023, Goodyear's population age 65 and older grew by more than 54%. And that's placing us among the fastest growing senior populations in the country. That growth brings opportunity, but it also requires thoughtful planning to ensure services evolve alongside community needs. So staff appreciates Avondale's partnership, and we remain committed to working collaboratively to ensure that our residents experience no disruption in services. These conversations really set the stage for us to bring Goodyear services for Goodyear residents in Goodyear. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. We'll start over on the right side. Go ahead, Benita.
Yes, so when it started, do you know approximately how many residents were utilizing that service? And was it 2014?
I don't have the numbers with me tonight that show the increase year by year. I know in fiscal year 20, the last fiscal year's reported was an average of 76 total seniors.
Okay. When you say transportation, can you explain what that means to the senior?
Absolutely. At the Avondale Family Resource Center, they do operate a curb-to-curb service. So they have their own fleet vehicle that they utilize to get seniors from their homes to the Avondale Senior Center. Transportation can take on a variety of different options, from We Ride to if someone's ADA certified ride choice, but they do offer that curb-to-curb service through a vehicle that's maintained by Avondale, City of Avondale.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Laura?
It seems that we got a pretty good bargain for 12 years. And we no doubt that there need to be some adjustment. Now, this feels like a huge adjustment, but like you said, it's a catalyst for us to start the conversation about what do we want to do. And I believe it was much higher initially. So kudos to whoever worked hard to negotiate that. And through the community funding subcommittee, we also provide funding to a couple of other agencies who provide senior meals. So I think it's good to look at it even holistically. In addition to what Avondale provides, there's a couple of other providers, and what would make the best sense to meet the needs. I know that aging in place is just a really important concept for people. It's a tough thing, for those of us dealing with aging parents and things like that. I mean, it's exciting. This definitely sounds like a great strategic plan item, and would love to see that as part of when we meet this fall, I believe, to start talking about strategic plan, putting on there. And I think Goodyear has always been strong in working out partnerships. Maybe we don't provide everything, but we find out who can help with the services and where it would make sense. I think we all have an idea, like the La Loma area would be great, but that building is so small, and so I know there's a lot to consider. But I appreciate this being a topic for discussion, and sometimes push comes to shove, and here it is. We'll talk about it, but it's a good topic, and I look forward to talking about it further. Thank you.
Brandon?
Yeah, so I think it's a great service that we offer to our residents. And you said that the 189,000, how long does that go for if we approve that, or we go forward with that? Is that every year? For how long is their contract, you said?
There is that, again, that will be coming in the amended IGA that will be coming here at the end of June.
Okay, I just want to verify. I must have missed that, but no, I think it's good. I just don't know if there's any natural increases when that IGA comes up, if it's going to keep going up or if it's going to stay the 189 when we negotiate that with them. So I'm just curious what that looks like. So yeah, but no, I think we're getting a good deal. Yeah, I'm okay continuing to partner with Avondale because I think they do a good job. So I know we'll talk about it in the future, but yeah, I'm not looking to build an exact copy of what Avondale has. So I'd rather stay with going to the Avondale, using their resources, partnering with other people. So I think it's good. So looking forward to more discussions around it. So thank you.
Thank you. Trey, have anything? Vicki? Wally?
Oh, yes, I've been waiting for this. As you know, I've served as Area Agency on Aging Chair for 4 years, and I understand this program probably better than anybody. The concern I have, number one, the price is too high for 76 people. That's just out of the question. The second concern is while you say they serve meals, they have to be served the meals there. That's a congregate meal. And they do bring some people in, but they have a service area. They do not cover all of Goodyear. So do not give that impression that they do, because they don't. And when I first came on council, I asked where our senior center was, and they said we don't have one. And of course, we were all young in those days, but 26 years later, we're getting old. And now we really need it. But I kept asking, can't we use CBDG funds and build it? And I don't think that they've changed the rules where we could, but I'd like Christine to look in that to see, because we really need to have a conversation to have our own senior citizen center. So many of my friends used to go to Avondale, but they don't go there now because it's all Spanish-speaking people. They're very uncomfortable there because they don't know what they're saying, and they have their own cliques. But there are people that probably do go that enjoy it, because I've been over many, many, many times. And it's interesting, I could not find anyone from Goodyear the times that I went, but they promised me there were women, and they didn't see any men. They said there were some women that came. So I think we really need to have an in-depth conversation, because now our population is aging, and we need to have our own services. But I honest to God think 147,000 for 76 people is just outrageous. And also, Area Agency on Aging is the agency that provides all of these meals, and they're government federally funded. And they can feed more if they had more coming there. but then they can only house so many, and they have to have a special kitchen to prepare these meals. And then they have to have volunteers to deliver those meals. Now, Meals of Joy used to be a nonprofit that delivered meals. They have now gone out of business. So we do not have Meals of Joy anymore. I was able to get a large grant where we have food delivered to 70 seniors in their home, frozen with a microwave, so that they can have fresh food every week. And I don't know how long I'm going to be able to continue to get that, but I'm trying to pick up the people that are lost, that they can't get out of their house and they don't necessarily drive anymore. So I agree with Laura that this should be a strategic plan, but let's not take 25 years to build it or 10 years to build it out. Let's really let's see if we can make another partnership with someone to build it. I mean, we've got land when we build a community park. Maybe there's a portion of it we could designate for a senior center or something. Our recreation staff is outstanding, and they can provide any program that Avondale provides except for the meals, because we do not have that kitchen in the rec center. If we did, we could serve our own meals right there. So I do want to commend our rec center staff and our park and recreation staff, because I attend those, and everybody can hardly wait till the next event. And it's the best place to go to get the gossip. So I like to go to find out what's going on. So, but I really think this is really an important population we need to reach out to, and we need to provide some type of service and not pawn it off on Avondale. Avondale's been a great partner, don't get me wrong. But I think it's time now we can do our own. And Avondale's always had a much older population anyway, because they've either had older folks that moved in before we did, because a lot of us, when we moved in, we were just barely in our 50s, if that. And then the average age here, they say, is 31. But there's a lot of seniors here that I think you could fill it every day. So I'm all for us putting our thinking caps and seeing where we can get funding. And surely maybe there is some federal funds that are available. Well, but we really need to think about it and search it out, I think. Because I don't want to, these 76 seniors, it should be more than 76 seniors. It should be several hundred if it's really a program for our citizens, not just 76, because that's not 76 every day. That could be 76 throughout a month or a year or whatever. So they count. If I go in 3 times a week, I'm counted 3 times, but I'm the same person. So I'd just like us to have our own, if we can afford it.
Okay. Well, thank you for the presentation. Looking forward to your analysis on what you're looking at for price. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Last item is receiving an update on the zoning ordinance comprehensive update. Who's coming up? Please introduce yourself, if you would.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Katie Wilkin, Development Services Director, and I am joined by Matt Kleisico with Michael Baker International and Christian Williams, our Planning Manager. Sorry. All right, we are before you tonight to continue our discussion on the zoning ordinance update, which is a city strategic plan item. I hope you are able to review all 158 pages we provided for you in your packet. I apologize. Only 33 were new, but we don't expect you to have thoroughly read through everything. Part of the purpose of tonight is these topics we've chosen of our importance to the community. And so this is the release of those drafts for the public review as well, which is why we provided all the detail of the draft language. You might remember we kicked off this project back in January 2025. We had touch points with you in the spring of 2025 to get your input on the project. And then we were just here in November on a variety of other topics, including housing, use permits, and signage. Tonight, we have a few topics for you, which I'll go over in just a minute, and this is leading toward our big push on getting the drafts out to the community for public review and comment so that we can come back to you with the draft and all the input we've received from the community, working toward a June adoption. So the topics we're going to be discussing are battery energy storage systems and data centers, and they are hot topics across the valley. In fact, I just received an email alert from Phoenix Business Journal that Goodyear is going to be discussing data centers tonight. So there are people watching our discussion tonight interested on these topics. There are some additional items we have to review, time permitting. We figure these first two items will have a robust discussion. So if you have questions for us, we can go through those items at the end. Otherwise, again, as I said, this is kind of the release of the public information, so we can continue those discussions on those items later as well. So delving into battery energy storage systems. So this is something newer to the community. They are necessary facilities to help ensure that we have a safe and reliable power grid. However, we're also all aware that there were 2 fire incidents, one in Surprise in 2019 and one in Peoria in 2025. And so, of course, the safety of these facilities are of the utmost importance. I can tell you we have worked in partnership with our fire department in bringing the recommendations for you tonight. Myself and the fire marshal and some other staff members have visited BEST facilities so we could see these firsthand and talk to other communities about what they're doing with them. We do have one BEST facility existing in the city of Goodyear. It was permitted by a previous zoning administrator. I don't know if I would have made the same zoning determination they did, because our zoning ordinance actually does not explicitly address this use, which is why we're discussing this tonight, because we do need regulations, as I said, that we can make sure we can allow these as part of our community as they're a necessary infrastructure, but also make sure we're ensuring a safe community as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt, who's going to go over the proposed regulations.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to discuss this topic this evening. Katie gave a great intro in terms of why we're focusing on this particular use, and we all recognize that it's something that's becoming more common across the valley and the state, and thus there's more requests for these types of uses. And so what you have in your packets is a draft ordinance that we put together for conversation purposes. In your staff packet, there's also a table that shows some of the approaches that other communities have utilized in developing BEST ordinances as well. So naturally, we looked at some of those BEST practices across other communities and considered those in the development of this draft ordinance. So for conversation purposes this evening, we're not going to go through every aspect of that draft ordinance. We selected out some of the key topic areas that are probably most frequently discussed in other communities when looking to adopt such ordinance language. So we'll use those to structure our conversation, and then you'll see how we apply that through the data center conversation as well. So for BEST facilities, the draft ordinance that is in your packet is being proposed to allow BEST facilities as a special use permit. And that would be limited to the I-1 and I-2 zoning districts. So the special use permit obviously is a formal process that you would have to go through. It has a public review consideration, a neighborhood consideration. And so that aspect was favorable when we were looking at that. Special use permit also gives some flexibility to staff and council to apply maybe different considerations during that determination or that use permit process. If there are any unique considerations that might go above and beyond what is considered in this draft ordinance. And of course, limiting it to the I-1 and I-2 districts is just trying to make sure that we're linking it to zoning districts that would be more applicable to this type of use and the facilities that it often is associated with. Now, separation of these facilities from existing uses is another big topic when considering these. In your handout, we looked at a lot of different communities, and you'll get a range. You'll get some communities that are looking all the way up to 1,000 feet separation from residential. Down to there is a national standard, the NFPA 855 standard, which suggests that separation distance from any occupied structure should be 100 feet. So we see this range from 100 feet as kind of the minimum, all the way up to 1,000 feet as maybe the largest from a residential application. From non-residential applications, you start to see a little bit more consistency. And in this draft, we landed on 150 feet from commercial or industrial uses and 500 feet from residential uses. Now, the residential uses, that number, there's other conditions within the existing zoning code that utilizes 500 feet as a separation consideration. And so that's where that starting point arrived from. Screening and landscaping. Now, these facilities in other applications, kind of like the image you see on the screen here, can be in maybe rural areas. They can also be in developed areas. And so screening and landscaping is a consideration. It is a requirement. However, there are some provisions within the draft ordinance that give staff some flexibility as to how to program that screening. So if it was in a more rural area, there might be opportunity to take that into account and adjust the screening requirements. But it also reserves the ability for staff to require that more robust screening if uses were to develop adjacent to the facility. Of course, with the description that Katie provided in terms of some of the safety concerns that these facilities have, emergency response plan is a requirement within the standards. That looks at not only how the site is accessed, but what facilities are within the site and what hazards are within the site. So that emergency response plan has a lot of standards, the draft ordinance has a lot of standards that guide what that emergency response plan needs to have and what it needs to align with, whether that's a national standard that it needs to align with in terms of the operation of the facility itself, or in terms of just helping our fire and first responders when they arrive at the facility and what information is going to be available to them. Some of the other things that I'll close on for considerations is noise. These facilities might have a different impact from a noise standard compared to data centers, which we'll speak to in a little bit, but there is reports of particular noise from these facilities. So the draft ordinance does have a consideration of analyzing background noise in the parcel's current state, then looking at noise once the facility comes online, and then providing annual reports from a noise standpoint just to make sure that those facilities are not placing any undue hazards or burden on adjacent properties. And then, of course, the decommissioning plan. So this looks at guiding the development of these facilities, but not overlooking the fact that they do have a lifespan and what or how these these parcels will be utilized, or making sure they can be utilized once these facilities reach their lifespan. So with that, Mayor, I think I'll turn it back over to council, and we can zero in on any particular questions rather than going on in greater detail with all the provisions that are in the draft ordinance.
Okay, thank you. I'll start on the left-hand side. Go ahead.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the lifespan?
Well, the lifespan is going to be predicated on the operator of the facility and how long they anticipate that the use will be needed. The technology, we would imagine, is going to come in play as well. So as that technology evolves, we're also anticipating that some of these facilities might have an initial lifespan, but with technology changes that may change.
Right.
And so those things we do want to be mindful of.
Right. I'm very familiar with these. The West Coast has been using them for several years now. We're kind of late to the game. It's something that we're all going to need, obviously, because we're running out of power. And so I think California, if I'm not mistaken, they've been getting them also, right?
Oh, yes.
A lot.
Yes.
And because of the brownouts and blackouts and everything that they've had. I know Washington State, I'm very familiar because I've been working with commissioners there. That's my home state. Sure. And for what's going on there. I know it was a big thing when they started coming out because they wanted to put them on farmland in between creeks and rivers, and they were worried about the salmon. How they built them in the beginning was very different than how they built them now. So you said they started in 15 and 17? That's the dates that you had? That's the years that you had? You gave some years. That's what I'm asking.
That might have been the years that there were some emergency instances in Peoria and Surprise.
Okay. So when did they start these? Do you remember when they first started bringing these to the United States, the battery centers?
I'd have to get that information
Can you
in
get
terms
that
of
for me?
when BESS facilities started to become more prevalent in the
Okay.
U.S. We can do
I
that.
would like that, because I know in Washington State, it's been about the last 2 to 4 years. So West Coast. California might be even more than that, I don't know. I know they're trying to keep them away from the rivers and the streams. But I do know that there are places that, out in the middle of nowhere, that they are putting them because it's obvious you don't want one, okay, fine, but you're going to have another because we need the power. So I know, like I said, they've come a long way. And I think that it's something that we have to be really mindful, but we have to be open-minded too, because we're going to need it. There's just no way around it. And I think we have to get with the program and start getting it moving. We have projects right now that are coming to us with this.
Thank you. We have had requests.
We have had requests. Have we okayed any of this yet? And do we know where?
There is one that was permitted in an I-2, our heaviest industrial district. And again, that was a different zoning administrator determination.
That's the one that you weren't sure about.
Yeah,
Okay.
So that one is built. It finished construction last year, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
it's on Saraville Avenue. So that's the first one we
is
had.
that Pluto?
Yes.
Okay, we've already been to that one. Okay. And so what you're going to do is you're doing special use permits for them now.
Yes, we're proposing that we would do a special use permit, so it's a public process, but we would allow them in, through special use permit in all industrial districts, so the I-1 and the I-2.
Okay, and we do have 1 or 2 that are in the process of being done now.
Nobody has submitted recently, except for we do have some large solar facilities that have BESS as a component. It's kind of a different thing, but there are some that have come in for pre-application meetings.
Okay.
Currently, we said, our zoning ordinance doesn't address this, so they are interested in this discussion tonight and
Yes,
what we may do with the process.
I think we have to get with the program so that we're not going to fall behind. All right, thank you.
Trey?
Thank you, Mayor. Katie, you mentioned, as a special use permit, so these and previously it was mentioned how, it provides for a little bit more flexibility throughout the process. So each one of these permits or requests would come to us for an already zoned industrial sector through a special use permit. How do these regulations apply as part of that flexibility, if at all? When could it be denied? When could it be approved? When could we have that flexibility? Because there are some things where we are very limited on whether we can approve or deny a permit based on those things. So I kind of wanted to know a little bit more of how that process worked. And then I have a couple more questions then about the regulations that we want to put in.
Thank you, Councilmember Terry. Yeah, it is important to distinguish that the special use permit process is different than the use permit process. So we often guide you when we're doing the use permits, your hands are a little bit more tied. There's very specific criteria. If they meet it, we typically need to approve it. The special use permit is a separate section of our zoning ordinance, and there is more control from council. So it gives you both flexibility and the ability to regulate more. So we put these standards in, but somebody could propose, you know what, I would like to propose 400 feet from residential. And in exchange, perhaps I'm going to add more landscaping, taller wall, design the site in a way to make sure I'm still meeting the intent, and city council would have the authority to approve or deny that recommended modification from the applicant.
Okay, and that's where I was going to go, because I'm looking at some other cities like Buckeye, Maricopa County. They have 150 feet from residential. You know, I think there's one or two cities in the valley that go up to 1,000. I was kind of curious how we ended up at 500. If there is flexibility in there, is that still being workshopped? Especially if on the next bullet down, they're responsible for screening and landscape. You know, 500 feet, that's almost 2 full football fields, and you start talking about square footage there. That's going to drive up costs even more, I'm sure. So I was just curious, excuse me, about the flexibility in there, and then are some of these numbers just getting workshopped, and how hard set are they? Or within the special use permit, we are allowed some more flexibility, so it's more of a guideline rather than a hard set rule.
And I'll jump in if that's okay, Katie. One thing that I would mention on that, because that's zeroing in on something we wanted to kind of discuss this evening, is the 500-foot. You're correct in that there's a range from down to 100 or 150 feet all the way up to that 1,000 that you mentioned. The 500 feet was that middle ground based off of the existing setback considerations that other uses have, drive-throughs, for example, from residential. And so that was the kind of starting point for that 500. But one of the things that we do have within the draft language is noting that there is a section on development standards within this draft ordinance, which focuses on setbacks and screening. So what can also be consideration is how hard do we want to be, or how flexible do we want to be? So the draft language says that we, through the special use permit process, you cannot amend these development standards. And so through conversation this evening, we might hear from council that no, we actually would want that flexibility in order to respond down the line. Now, if that was too much, right, then we would say, no, we like the fact that we're going to hold true on setbacks, but then maybe some of the other things we're flexible on, of what technology or what plans they have to submit and those types of things. So that I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one thing that we wanted to gauge from council about how much do we want to be flexible on this, or how much does council want to be more, definitive?
Yeah. I would say, at least from my perspective, maintaining the flexibility, I think is a good thing, especially within the special use permit, because you mentioned like a 500-foot setback for a drive-through. Not every drive-through in the city has that. I can think of the Whataburger on Litchfield in Indian School is maybe 50 feet. But again, the timing of that is so long. Not saying we want to do 50 feet, but that's just like a large, or at least very immediate example that I can think of right now. Just from my perspective, I like the special use permit. I like that we get a lot of control. We get a lot of flexibility in here because, number one, we need to make sure our residents are protected. Quality of life is protected. But at the same time, as Councilwoman Gillis was saying, this energy generation, this power grid is such a critical part of our infrastructure that we also need to make sure that we aren't forcing, egregious costs on that, driving rates up for everybody, every year, constantly. There's gotta be a little bit of a balance, so at least from my perspective, I would like to see the flexibility, but, you know, that's just me, and I think that's all I have, Mayor.
Molly, you have anything?
I do, thank you.
Wait a minute, go this way.
I have a couple of concerns. I want to be sure that there will be public comment on the special use permit and that we do the noticing like we normally do, and so that there's no conflict with the public thinking we're trying to sneak something through, regardless of what it is. They need to be able to tell us. And the second thing is that I am in favor of the 500 feet because, like over 200 homes in Pebble Creek, they back up to 303 and they can't even use their backyards because of the noise. Now, I don't know how noisy these bests are. I really don't know, but you said they're noisy. So I would assume they're noisy 24 hours a day because they're running. Is that correct?
Thank you. The one I visited was not noisy at all.
Okay, but they could be.
We are putting regulations in there for noise should something happen. I mean, any piece of electrical equipment
Good.
can break down and create noise. So we're just making sure we have regulations in place.
Good.
So should there be a problem, our code team can go out there and resolve it. But the way they're supposed to operate, they don't generate
We would hope
noise.
that they're very
Correct.
quiet, especially
Yes.
500 feet, it is 2 football fields, but I mean, maybe that's not far enough for them either. You know, I don't know. My next question is, do we have any penalties or written in the ordinance that if the correct hazardous materials or whatever on site is not fully disclosed? Because we're making them put an emergency response plan together, and our first responders are going to be responding, and they need to know every single thing that BES has, and no surprises. And I don't know how you do that, but I just want to be very careful. I mean, I know you've been working with police and fire, but I just want to be sure that we cover all of our bases. And do they put a sign up? I mean, how do they know what's in there when they get the call?
Thank you. I may need some assistance from our fire chief for the
I think that's a
details,
good
but
idea.
in this case, the fire code would come into play. And if there's hazardous materials we don't know about,
That's what
the
worries me.
building official or fire marshal can shut the building down if we feel it's necessary.
Okay, so, Chief, you want to tell us?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Tim Wayne, Acting Fire Chief. First of all, we would have a premise alert installed that would give us all the information of hazardous materials on that site.
Okay.
So we'll go entering, knowing exactly what we're going to be dealing with. We'll spend lots of time with staff to make sure that we understand. We'll send crews through, and so we're going to do our due diligence.
Okay, I just know that the Peoria fire was really difficult. I remember that.
That was surprise.
Surprise,
That was a tragic incident that occurred.
very.
Early on, not really aware of the hazards that were presented at that time. So crews had a difficult time managing that incident for sure.
Okay, well, thank you. I just want to be sure that we're protected. I don't
I
want
do too.
someone come in and think that they don't have to tell us everything.
I agree.
Because I don't know how often we have inspectors go out. I don't know how that's handled. That's not my wheelhouse. So I just want to be sure that we've got that
So
on the
high
table.
hazard facilities, they'll be inspected annually.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Benita?
Yes, I certainly am in favor of, when you talk about flexibility, that we have some flexibility with the special use permit. Very much in favor of the 500 feet. Me personally, I could be further, but that's fine. I did attend a seminar where they talked about the surprise fire. And I think it's really, really important that our fire department, and as well as we do the use permit, that we understand what their emergency response plan, the plan is, and what they have there and what the plan is. And those are probably the things that I'm most concerned about having heard about. Surprise, although it's my understanding technology has been changed since that time that won't, so that that particular situation wouldn't occur again.
Thank you, council member. I did want to jump in and state that they've completely redesigned the facility since that incident in 2019 in Surprise. They used to keep the batteries in almost like a storage container type unit. And that's what created some of the unsafe conditions, so that when the firefighters opened the unit, it blasted. And so now they're more out in the open, and so it is safer. And there was another fire in Peoria in 2025, and we didn't see the same, although it was a challenge for them to put it out, it did burn. It didn't pose the same kind of hazard that other one did. So the technology has certainly changed. The industry has learned.
Because of those issues, I think it's very important that our residents, like Wally said, our residents are very much aware of what we're doing, why we're approving this, and as Vicki said, it's important for the future that we do move forward, but be very much aware of what the cautions are. That's all I have.
Laura?
I appreciated when you opened up the conversation, you did talk about the power needs, and I thought you got to the butt pretty quickly. But however, it was interesting. Christine Mackey, GPEC, what's the thing that keeps her up at night? It's infrastructure and it's the power grid. And we are living in a world, and especially as we're the #1 semiconductor supply chain area in the U.S., Phoenix is just growing by leaps and bounds. And fortunately, unlike California, our utility companies have been able to meet the power needs, even with the incredible heat, even with the demands from all the data centers and things like that. I mean, we're really fortunate. But I've been studying this topic of energy and data centers for about a year, going to different things at ASU and pursuing it. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I got on the NLC committee on energy, is because I'm really interested to hear about other states and what they're doing, how they're addressing the power need. So we're living in this situation where we've got these power needs. And so at the end of last year, I went and toured Palo Verde nuclear plant, and they provide about 18% of the power, base power. From that, it's solar and wind power. In fact, California just gives power away, or they pay us to take some of their power, which all does good and well until the sun goes down. And that's where the battery energy storage systems kick in, 2, 4, 8 hours, depending on the size. And then after that is natural gas. So there's this whole multimodal energy system that helps us to keep the lights on. And then we're all starting to think that battery energy storage systems are difficult. Now there's talk about small nuclear reactors, and that'll be a lot of fun when that starts talking about zoning of that. But we as a people, because we're consuming so much power, have to find ways to meet power. So I think there's definitely an argue that we need the power, and to Trey's point, the more barriers that we make, the harder we make it, then that definitely is going to have a impact on costs overall for all of our rate users. So when I was in my little HR job at Phoenix, NFPA was the standard for all things electrical. We had electricians, we had arc flash incidents. I mean, we went by the NFPA standard. So as we've been pursuing, it's like, well, what are their standards? They're the professional electrical organization. I feel, they're not making emotional decisions necessarily. And you say that their standard is 100 feet. Okay. So you have picked out some cities, Buckeye, Mesa, Maricopa County, but there's multiple other cities in the valley that are contending with this. And so I would like to see a more comprehensive list of cities, because we're not the only city who is tackling this on. And it's funny, as you know, there's things we didn't know, like when data centers came up. We learned about data centers because they just show up on your doorstep and you have to make decisions. But I understand a number of them also have battery energy storage systems in them as well, which we did not contemplate at all when we first initially began talking about this topic. So I'm always a person that's kind of methodical. It's like, okay, if we set a standard, then what is that based on? And it's not clear to me, other than drive-throughs, that's what we're basing the 500 feet on. Is there anything you could elaborate on that?
From a specific distance of the 500, there was no technical consideration that we arrived at for that. So whether it be from an analysis from fire or other operational consideration, we didn't, 500 feet did not come through any type of NFPA recommendation. It was largely just looking at how the City of Goodyear's code looks or has distance separations from other residential uses, or to other residential conditions, and that's how we arrived at 500.
I would like consideration of the technical. Again, we're not experts. I don't expect any of us to be expert on the topic, but it's something that we have to figure out and learn to live with, and come up with rational a methodology for why we're choosing. And then I understand there's different things that can be done to mitigate any potential hazards, such as berming and containment walls and things like that. And I think that's where we definitely would like to see a lot of flexibility. So talking about changes in the whole battery industry, like since the time, especially of that horrific fire. So not long ago, I attended a session where it was out at Scottsdale, the fire training center, and they were teaching firefighters how to deal with electric cars, how to deal with the chargers, how to deal with the power walls that are in homes, as well as the battery energy storage systems. And so learned a lot about that. And certainly the industry itself has done a lot to make this successful and safe. And so they have tested it and try to make systems fail, and then they engineer things to make it better. So first thing, if there's a little glitch in the system, which is monitored also for 24 hours a day, they take it instantly de-energizes. And in fact, everything's so self-contained, what they tell the firefighters is, like, don't even touch it, just let it be, and chances are it's going to be okay. And so there's this whole electrical phenomena is just, we're seeing more charging stations, which are charged by a battery storage system. Certainly we hear of the electric cars going up. I mean, so electrical is going to be a part of as we grow, it's a part of our future. So, we want to make sure that we figure it out. But from what we learned in this particular model, were all the Tesla, the products, and it's, pretty well marked, and they studied the fire science of that pretty intensely. So all this to say is, in fact, we're going on a tour this week. Some of us are going on a tour, and it's with SRP, because they're the one who did have the failure. So there's been a lot of questions asked. And I don't know what your engagement are with stakeholders. I mean, the whole reason we're doing this is to support, the utilities, APS and SRP. And, I would hope, because they're professional, they have a seat at the table as a stakeholder as well. So I guess all that to say is I'd like to see a rationale for a number. And also, I think we need to offer the greatest flexibility possible. And I think these are conversations that just warrant, a lot of thoughtful thoughts, a mix of feelings, but logic as well. So would like to see us go back and continue the conversation. I don't think we're there yet.
Brandon?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so I do have some history with this since I used to work for an electric utility company for 18 years. So I know APS, they started their first one of these about 10 years ago. So we've had it for quite a while now, this technology here in Arizona. So yeah, I am open to or would like to see more flexibility in the zoning. So you said originally the 500 feet was also predicated on noise. Was that part of what you said, or just it was nothing technical at all?
I'm sorry, the distance
The
was
distance. I thought you said it was noise originally, that because of the drive-throughs and things like that.
Oh, no, the 500-foot separation is a number that is used currently in the zoning code for other uses. So one example is drive-throughs consider a 500-foot distance to residential.
Okay.
And so that's where that number came from, but as others have shared, that 500-foot is not predicated on a technical aspect of the best facility.
Okay, it didn't sound like it was, to your point, that wasn't on fire for fire safety, other things like that, but it was just on, you said like the restaurants. And
Consistencies, yes.
Yeah, so I like the flexibility more so in there. Obviously, I mean, I think no less than 150 would probably be, sounds like that's probably where the minimum is right now. But yeah, but I'd like to see whatever the data is around that. And they are usually pretty quiet. I used to work around with this type of equipment in the past, and they're pretty quiet. And so yeah, so I do appreciate it, because we're going to get more and more of these for load stabilization and stuff like that within the city and on the grid, which really helps just even out things, especially if there's something going on just in the environment. So yeah, so I think these are going to be more and more useful, especially with the use of solar and things like that as well. So and I appreciate the emergency plan being part of it as well. Obviously, our fire needs to be involved in any of these things. They know how to attack it and how to defend it and how to protect the community as well. So yeah, and I also appreciate the life cycle plan too. I think that's really a good idea. They shouldn't cause too many hazards to the environment, or at least to be able to reuse it again. As long as nothing weird happens, this should be pretty plug and play, kind of like a little gas fire or a little backup generator or something like that. So yeah, so I think I'm good. I appreciate everything as well, and with the it will be interesting if we do for small modular reactors one day. I think SMRs will be pretty exciting too, which I think are super safe. And those would be great also in the future. So they should be used everywhere. So, but yeah, so I think, yeah, I'm on board, looking forward to more conversation around it as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I don't want to regurgitate what Laura said. I'm kind of with her, I'm more, I guess, stat-wise. I don't understand the 150 for commercial or the 500 for residential. Does that mean we don't mind the commercial being endangered versus the other? I don't see the logic there. I know there's standards out there, but I also have been told from people, and I've done some research on this as well, as far as the technology is getting to the point, because they do monitor these things 24/7, is that they're getting to the point where they can monitor per cell. And once they can monitor by cell, if when you got a cell that starts to overheat, you shut the cell down, which prevents what's happening. So the technology is getting better and better as we sit here, as we get through there. So I'd like to see some more on there. Not only that, if we can get a count. I mean, we talk about the fires, but how many of these are actually in Arizona that have been in place in Arizona, and how many fires have there been? It's like with the Tesla when you hear about the Carsberg bird, but there's, thousands of Teslas out there, but you always hear when one of them catches on fire, right? So I'd like a little more study on this, and I'm also for flexibility. This is real important. if we want to stay ahead of all this, bless you. If you want to stay ahead of this, as far as the energy is concerned, and you're right, we got another tour coming. So we'll see how this stuff goes. So hopefully that gave you enough feedback from all of us on here.
Thank you. That was very helpful, clear feedback.
Okay, thank you. You want to continue?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, we have some more topics. Sorry. This is the other big topic, data centers. So this one I do know when we built our first one, which was in 2011, a very small one. I think it's only about 10,000 square feet under roof. And now we have 6 active data center campuses, and our 7th is currently under construction. So Goodyear's actually been one of the leaders in data center development in the Valley, and we've learned a lot. And as Council Member Kano just mentioned, learning about data centers, she let staff know of an opportunity at ASU just a couple weeks ago on data center. And, there are a lot of misconceptions out there in data centers and being in the desert. I think the first is the water usage. And data centers do not use water like people think they do, the new ones coming in, and we do have tools to control that, which you'll find out. I am about to hand it over to Matt to go through the proposal, but I do just want to reiterate, we have had, since we have had numerous data center campuses developed in the city of Goodyear, we do consider them a permitted use in our industrial districts. We're not proposing a change to that process. However, we have had a lot of learning as we've implemented these, mostly as one-off individual projects. Many of these did come to council at some point for zoning changes. And so now we're codifying a lot of that learning so that there's clarity and consistency in the process. And so with that, I will hand it over to Matt to go through this proposed standards.
Great. Thank you, Katie. And similar to the BEST discussion, in your packets, you have a draft ordinance relative to data center regulations. You also have a table that looks at some other comparable communities that have developed data center regulations so that you can use that for comparison purposes. But on the particular slide is some of the key talking points that we wanted to at least note for our conversation this evening. Similar to our previous conversation, of course, council can take this discussion wherever you would like, but we tried to zero in on those areas that are most frequently mentioned from a regulatory standpoint. So as Katie mentioned, in this draft, you can see that data centers are going to or at least we're proposing that they stay as a permitted use within the I-1 and I-2. There are some considerations for how accessory uses are also addressed, but overall, if it's a principal use, they would be still permitted in the I-1 and I-2 with specific conditions. In terms of setbacks, so here we are looking at having a minimum setback of 300 feet from residential, 100-foot setback from commercial or industrial. And some of that setback consideration, yes, height comes into play when we're looking at these facilities, but also noise. And so really from a noise standpoint, we've had reports in other communities which have developed regulations based off of those, that it's the backup generators and the testing of those that actually generate more of the noise associated with these, particularly in other communities that have had complaints. And so that's where you see the noise reference of within 500 feet of residential. So if a facility were to be proposed within a 500-foot of residential, similar to the BEST, we would have a pre-noise consideration of what is the current background noise, what is the condition once a CFO is obtained, and then an annual report from a noise standpoint. The other aspect that is robust, I would say, in this draft is consideration of how that backup power is managed. So looking at other communities and the experiences they've had and some of the things that they've put in place. We have proposed that in this ordinance that the operator provide a schedule of when they're going to test those backup generators, and also limit the times and days that that testing can occur, to ensure that residents don't end up in a situation where they're listening to backup generators being tested all day, every day. And so we, again, want thread that needle in a good balance of, we recognize the need for that testing, but we also appreciate residents' concerns about having to manage that daily. So some considerations for that are in this ordinance. And then, as Katie pointed out, yes, water is a topic that comes up a lot with data centers, energy as well. And so will serve letters are acknowledged within this. Katie mentioned that there are more technology that is minimizing that impact, at least on the water side. And so there was a starting point with those will serve letters. But again, we're open and interested in council's feedback on any other topics beyond just these pointed ones. So with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you and council.
Okay, I'll start on the right side this time. Anything here? Go ahead.
Well, data centers are definitely in the news a lot. There's a lot of feelings about them as well, but yet is that seminar that Katie mentioned, it's the people and the devices that are driving the demand. I mean, it's incredible. People talk about we'd love to have Waymo out here. Well, we're going to need data centers to support that, and it's just interesting as the economy is evolving in such a way. It really is essential infrastructure. One of the things they said was that the industry has not done a great job with branding. People don't really understand what they are, but we have a couple of them on Bullard, and one thing that just comes right off the bat is even how they look, how they present. We have Vantage, that's a very attractive building, and they did a great job. They're right there on the corner, and it looks like an office, and they've done a great job. I would love to see, as more come on, that we take that elevated look and make them look more than just big blocky buildings, for sure. Are there ways to mitigate the noise?
I wouldn't be in a position, we've had conversations with operators to understand the
Right.
facilities. We would have to look into that more to see what we might be able to do to reduce noise beyond just distance.
Because the industry is really having to work to overcome a lot of resistance to their product, and one of the ways to do that is to engineer out some of the things that are causing people concerns. So, I mean, it would be interesting to know what they could do. Again, a number of them have battery energy storage systems in place, and then just to be consistent, I mean, we've picked numbers, 300 and 100. So what is that based on?
I would say that it is a similar conversation for best facilities, that we looked at the code and the existing facilities, and there's existing uses within the code that utilize that 300-foot separation. So we acknowledge the 300-foot for the facility, but then from a noise standpoint, as you can see, expanded that to the 500, linking it back to the same number on best. But beyond just consistency with other distances in the code, there's not a technical.
So that's a phrase that you're using quite a bit. You used it for the best as well, the consistency with other conditions or other things in the code, and I think the most we got out of that is drive-throughs. What else is there?
There's live music is one that's considered Storage facilities is another separation from residential. So there are a handful, but yes, it's not extensive.
It is also our notice area.
Oh, thank you, Kate.
Yes,
So-
but we're
so
looking
there
to
is an-
expand our notice area. Does that mean that you would expand?
It's a good
I mean-
question, but yeah, that is where the 500
Okay.
feet kind of comes from originally, was
Okay,
the notice area.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, because I see that that's an agenda item. I don't know, I mean, data centers are here to stay. We got to figure out how to live with them as well. And would like to see, again, just what's the logical approach or standards that we're using to them as well. Thank you.
Brandon?
Yeah, thank you again. I had so I was looking through the data and everything here. I couldn't see what we already currently have to what we're going to. Is it more conservative or less conservative, or I'm trying to find the differences between the two.
Thank you, great question. So the data centers are also not explicitly called out in the zoning ordinance. We have treated them as a permitted use, similar to other use. We found other uses in the I1 and I2 category that we said it was analogous to. And that's how we've said it's permitted. I can tell you the data centers we have today meet these standards. There is no data center closer than 300 feet to residential, except for the one Compass data center, the multifamily that's on Van Buren. But that came in after the data center, so it's a little different of a situation. But it's more than 300 feet from the single family residential. So that's what I mean. Some of this was the learning through the processes of where we came from.
Okay,
But
so it's not like
yeah.
we're standardizing what we already have.
Yeah,
in a
what
way.
we've done through one-off zoning cases.
Yeah. Okay, 'cause
Yeah.
I know you said we're almost a leader in data centers out
Yeah.
here. So I was just curious where you want us to go, where you're looking at. So yeah, I'm okay with flexibility, and I know that these produce noise compared to the other the BESs. So yeah, I think Liberty, they're like right next to Palm Valley right there. So I'd be curious what kind of noise mitigations that they use, because I know they have, I guess, smell mitigation, and I think noise mitigation, I took a tour there as well. So it'd be interesting to see what they're doing. I mean, it's not gonna be a constant hum necessarily, but they have neighbors there. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of procedures or processes they have in place. White noise, I'm not sure how they do it, or do they notify the residents, or what that looks like. But I do want them to be good neighbors, but I do want continue having them here in our community as well. So, but I do like the flexibility, and I don't mind reviewing them case by case, but just understanding where they're at and how to make them good neighbors for our residents, because I do think they're going to continue to grow here, and especially in Arizona, because I think that we're a less natural disaster prone location. So I think data centers are fit perfectly here in Arizona. So I think that'd be a good thing. So yeah, thank you for trying to standardize it, and thank you for flexibility as well.
Trey?
Thank you. Similar to Councilwoman Kano, I was going to, kind of probe, see where we were on the setbacks and obviously the noise reductions. These are a vital cog in our infrastructure. As was mentioned, there is the demand, and as Vice Mayor Hampton said, our lack of natural disasters is one of the reasons why data centers are really moving here. We don't deal with tornadoes, hurricanes. I feel like I need to knock on wood right now, because who knows what's coming next week. But Councilwoman Kano kind of touched on something when it came to design guidelines a little bit. I think one of the biggest reasons modern data centers get a bad, PR is they look like blocks out of Minecraft. And sorry, it's a video game that,
I'm glad you explained that, because I don't know what Minecraft is.
No, sorry. And they, if there was something we could do to ensure there is that quality for our residents, that it looks like a quality, nice neighborhood feel, even when you're driving past one. because 99.9% of residents will never enter one. But when they see it and they drive by and it's ugly, or it just doesn't, it's not appealing at all, that leads to their view of the quality of life. Obviously, they don't drain the water like they used to. Modern data centers are quite efficient when it comes to water. Power, on the other hand, just like so many other things, power is a driver. And that goes back to our last discussion as well. We need to ensure our grid is as strong as possible, making sure that we are not, and that's not just us. This is going to be SRP, this is APS. These are utilities there that do power, which the city does not, have a strong grid to ensure that they are not just, offloading these costs onto residents. One of the things we do at the city is to ensure that those utilities have the space and the proper locations to ensure that those costs just aren't piled onto residents. So I like this. I'd like to know a little bit more on the setbacks, numbers, where it came from, maybe a little bit more data there. But I am interested in what we could potentially do with design guidelines, just again, so that they're not blocky and unappealing.
Vicki?
I would like a little more information provided to the residents about the water issues, because I know when these first came out, they used a lot of water. And I think people are still under that, purview. I just think I get a lot of people that say to me, data centers take so much water. Well, they really don't today. And it's kind of like the BESS. I mean, as time has gone on the last 4 or 5 years, things have increased, have moved along, and things aren't what they were 4 or 5 years ago. So I think the water thing, we need to be better educated and let the residents know what's going on so they understand they don't have to, because water is such a big thing for us right now. So I think that's one of the main things. Again, I am for both of these because obviously we need them. I don't think we should be kicking the can down the road and waiting forever. I think we should be moving forward so that we don't get behind the 8 ball.
You're good, right? Listen, I appreciate the presentation. I think some of the biggest things with data centers and whatever, APS did a really nice job of explaining how the rate structure comes into place, and data center brings their own power. It's not like a lot of, data centers throughout the country where they lump that all together with residential and commercial. It doesn't work that way here. So I think that's a big misunderstanding out there as far as data centers, how they're driving the residential rates. And what I'm understanding is they don't. They bring their own power and their own set on there, is how APS goes about it. So, I appreciate the presentation. You got something else?
We do just have 2 more slides, 5 minutes.
Okay, go for it.
So we're going to hand it over to Christian.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So in your packet, you've been provided with recommended changes to the ordinance related to medical office parking requirements, changes to the codes related to mixed use, affordable and age-restricted parking requirement opportunities, as well as drive-through spacing regulations. You'll also recall that in January, a resident requested for council to consider a city-initiated zoning ordinance text amendment to create an arts center, a village center arts district overlay. Due to the need for additional public involvement and input on that matter, specifically in that area, if council is in agreement with the approach, the overlay would run separately from the zoning ordinance text amendment rewrite, and staff would do some city-initiated noticing to that area to receive, to gather resident feedback on that requested overlay. And if favorable feedback is received, staff would move forward with a process to implement the overlay and bring it back to council for consideration. If considerable concerns are brought forward to staff, we would inform council likely through a memorandum of the neighborhood concerns and seek your feedback on whether we should move forward with a proposal or not. And regardless of the zoning ordinance update, we will have a section of the zoning ordinance that will allow for overlays to be implemented if council wishes for us to move forward with that. And if council has any concerns or questions about the recommendations in the packet, we're happy to hear those now or receive that feedback through communication. And if any citizens listening or development community have any questions or comments on the zoning ordinance update, we have our website, goodyearzoning.com. You can click on the More button and then click on Contact Us. There's also staff email available there.
And I just want to reiterate, we did do this a little backwards than we normally do in that the public is getting this information with you tonight. So we haven't gotten the robust public feedback. This is being released. But we are following this meeting, making sure we're getting it to the whole development community, the general public, and everybody for comment.
Go ahead.
I have one other thing I wanted to add, because I know people are really, really concerned about danger and about fires and different things. I have the utmost respect and know that our fire department is completely equipped and can handle this. And the fire marshals and everything else, they're keeping up with everything that's going on, like Tim said. I mean, they know what's going on, how it's going on, and so that they're ready and able if anything does come up and happens. And I think that the public, since they're hearing this at the same time that we're hearing it, needs to understand that we have one of the best fire departments around. And if something happens that, God forbid, they have to get involved in something, they're going to know ahead of time what was happening, what was there, and they're going to be ready to deal with it. So the public doesn't need to worry. They need to have faith in our fire department as we do.
You know, I'm hoping that overlay district comes back very positive because I've seen what they've done over there on the arts. Really it's amazing what they've done to that facility over there. So I'm hoping as you send that out there that that does all come back positive because I think it's a great thing what the arts community has done out there to that particular area. Go ahead.
So you want us to give us a comment right now or just on those 4 items?
Go for it.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm good with all those things there. I know the art district, I think that's exciting too. When you're going through that, can you have it also so that they can use their backyards? In my mind, I would hoping that wall could come down and people could just go from our public parking lot that we have there, and they could maybe go up and down all those type of shops, potentially shops in the future, maybe like a downtown Glendale type feel. I remember when I was down there touring that before we destroyed our old city hall, our original city hall. I was disappointed in that. I thought that would have been a great idea. So I'm glad that someone took the idea and hopefully it'll make it happen here. So, but yeah, so make it flexible enough to where it's more walkable. It can be walkable and those can be future businesses or future shops or future art stores and things like that along that area there. So that's something. And then, yeah, I think the off-street parking or to be able to have the flexibility. I think it's the word of the night, flexibility for these topics is just being flexible with that. I don't want to push out certain users because we're not being flexible. So thank you for bringing these things. And I think it'd be good to get it in there and have that flexibility for going forward as well. So thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead.
I just want to comment on the Arts District overlay proposal. I'm just really excited about it. Art can really start to transform the area. Think about in Phoenix, Roosevelt Road just started out with galleries, and now it's a completely different community. But it just really it points to the power of art. And this is a resident-initiated drive, and really a commitment to. It's like a legacy thing, and the ones who've initiated have made a significant contribution to the overall arts and culture impact in Goodyear. And I just love that we've got some of that flexibility to accommodate that type of cultural innovation. And I'm very excited about this. So parking, yeah, it's always subject to debate. I mean, you can't win on that one. But art is awesome.
Anything else? All right, then. Next meeting will be March 23rd, 2026. No further business. This meeting's over.
Good, thank you very